So welcome
Morning.
everybody. Yeah, we and like I said, for those of you in the background, feel free to turn your camera on or not, either way. Um, so we've got today. It's kind of a special time because we've got both Rajashree and Michelle are actually calling in, and it's early hours of the morning in Thailand. What time is it in Thailand right now?
Five.
5 a.m.
Five.
Yeah, there we go. Um, and then obviously Matt and Sarah here from California as well.
And Juan too
Joel,
joining us, right? Juan from
yes,
Thailand. Yeah.
yeah, and
Where is
Juan's
one?
in the background somewhere, also in Thailand.
Anyone else in Thailand?
Yeah. And you guys were here. And
We
you
were
guys
in Thailand, yes.
And Joel, welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it. So I've got a couple of questions that people submitted online, but why don't we start with people who are on the call right now? Would somebody like to go first with their question? And just as a reminder, any topic's valid, that's related to the yoga, and we'll do our best to shed some light on the answers. You guys being shy.
Yeah, don't be shy.
You should have a comedy act to warm you up.
Right. Exactly. Here comes Jeff too. So warm us up, Matt, right? Give us a question.
Yeah. So we have a question. Actually, Elaine is on the call but driving. Elaine, are you able to ask your question, or do you want me to read it from the email? I'm going to go ahead and read it because I saw that Elaine is driving. She's in a car. So Elaine submitted this question online. She said she has a question about pranayama breathing. She'd like to confirm whether this exercise is done with the stomach at all. I've been focused on breathing through my nose, feeling and hearing the hissing sound through my throat while allowing my chest to expand. Recently, I've learned some deep breathing exercises involve breathing with or through the stomach, and it made me think about pranayama breathing, and I'd just like to clarify and confirm. And just for those of you who don't know, Elaine has been practicing for some time. Rajashree, would you like to talk a little bit about pranayama, deep breathing?
I really didn't understand the question. Is suck your stomach in or not, or engaging the stomach
So
in
if I paraphrase,
something she's asked.
Yeah, if I paraphrase, my understanding is that she understands that she's been breathing with the stomach in, but she's recently been learning about other deep breathing exercises that involve using the stomach. And so the question is, should we be using our stomach at all as part of the process of breathing in pranayama?
I think that's what we do in the breathing, what you just said, the last thing, if she wrote that, because see, the pranayama breathing can be done many ways. And it was done many ways, many technique, many other teachers taught, but Bikram way of doing this, which we do on 26 and 2 especially. And that's what we learned, that we try to engage our abdominal muscles from the beginning, learn how to use the muscles and the diaphragm together when we're inhaling. And when you are exhaling, slowly exhale through that, keeping that in mind. It's not about that pulling and like a uddiyana bandhu, like you are not pulling in and just holding it. It's a process. It's a kind of like a technique that we do it together. We stretch it, our spine up with the elbows, we pull it, and we also stretch it up. So of course that kind of help us for the breathing, from using our belly, using our diaphragm, using our whole like a respiratory system to activate and work. So that's the purpose.
Yeah.
I'm very early in the morning right now, so that's
yeah. I mean, Elaine, I see you unmuted. Do you have further question?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just driving and I'm in Bend. So I guess the specific question about the stomach is when you breathe in, typically my stomach would suck in, right? Versus when I'm meditating, there's another meditation, and I've been told when you breathe in, you're breathing in through the stomach, so my stomach's actually expanding. So
Yes.
I get confused. Like when I breathe in, I'm trying to expand my lungs, and is my stomach like pressing in or actually pushing out?
It's in. We specifically instruct during the inhale to suck the stomach in, which means that the process of trying to breathe deeply meets resistance, and it forces your rib cage to expand. So you start to expand the overall capacity of your breathing. When you do meditative breathing, that's a belly breathing, the rib cage isn't expanding at all, really. So they're very different kinds of breathing.
Yeah,
meditation always we call is a Buddha breathing. That's why I said many ways the breathing has been taught. And this is the pranayama breathing is different because you are exercising, with the breath. And then when you're doing meditation, that's a meditation breathing. That's a totally different purpose of that breathing. So it's a totally two different kind of breathing, but the same breathing, same lung, same you, but it's a two different purpose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Makes sense.
Hi, Raj and Michelle. This is Jeff.
Hi,
Great
Jeff.
to see you on here. I wanted to ask also in that train of thought, it seems to me that, like you said, Rajashree, that the pranayama is an exercise where we're attempting to strengthen the breathing muscles, I believe, as you expand the lungs. So the inhale and the exhale both have a certain level of constriction in the throat that's being used to throat and upper nasal to restrict the flow. So that makes our muscles work harder. Is that right?
Yeah, not the nasal though, Jeff. The nose and mouth are just passageways.
Well, I don't mean nose. I mean at the back of the throat where the passageway hits the throat. It's a different spot than the exhale. The exhale is deeper down the throat where you're constricting. But both directions should be constricted? No?
Oh my God. It's getting more confused about which part of the throat.
Well, it's a confusing exercise. Everybody's a little bit.
Use your throat. You have only one throat. That's it. Use it. If we in that position, if we try to say inhaling is one part, other inhaling another part, no. That's deep, It's that's why this is a pranayama breathing. That's why it takes time. 6 counts, go slowly. It says there longer, slower, flower, and then exhale deeper, how you do it.
But is the restriction of the breath in and out, that's to help your muscles increase their strength as well as, is that?
100%.
Okay, good, okay.
Confirm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think most of the time, right, in our breathing, it's normal. Our normal everyday breathing is so shallow, right? Like, who was I talking to? If all of us that do Bikram yoga, it's if you were to really kind of focus in on how over the years, how many times you've done pranayama, standing deep breathing. Right? We do 20 a class, so do the math on your own practice, right? So the ability to, strengthen your lung capacity and elasticity in the way we do it, right? Rajashree is amazing. So I don't know, I'm thinking of Elaine's question from like, what point of view is she asking this question from?
No, because this is a very common question. I get that from everybody. Because the traditional breathing from the meditation, that's why in the beginning I said all other technique when they teach is any kind of breathing, pranayama, and this says when you inhale, your belly should be full of the air, you'd be full, the air will come to the belly, and we completely doing different way. That's why I said it's exercise we do for our respiratory systems and expansion of the lungs, and which is, Matt explained that why we pull the suck in, how to open the rib cage, and just allowing. And that's hard in meditation. We don't do that. Meditation, it's not exercise, it's just a vibration. It's just sitting position. We just try to keep our mind silent, and we just try to hear the vibration or raise our vibration. And that's a totally different way. It's so different. Always I was asked, everywhere, whenever I started teaching in the beginning, in the big conferences, they always say, we teach this, how is it pranayama breathing? But if you look at it, what is more useful? The pranayama breathing, the way standing we do, immediately you just start feeling that you have really, work with your respiratory system, you work with your lungs, you work with your warm up your body. And that's the purpose we do this, even in the class.
So for the first breathing exercises, abdominal muscles stay contracted for inhale and exhale. And what we're really focusing on is working our diaphragm and rib cage, which what Rajashree was saying is during our normal breathing, and Michele was saying this too, during our normal everyday breathing, we really don't do that. So this is a practice to strengthen those muscles, different than normal breathing, and then we return to normal breathing during the class. Is that what? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, because if you think about it, like the only way you could stimulate deep breathing in a body, if you didn't have a specific exercise like pranayama deep breathing, would be to work the body to near exhaustion, would be to make it such an intense cardiovascular experience that you started to quite naturally breathe as deeply as possible because you were almost breathless with the level of exertion. So, and obviously that wouldn't be accessible to a wide audience of people practicing the yoga, but you can simulate that by keeping the stomach in. And then as you breathe, you meet resistance. It gets hard to breathe in, and you just keep breathing in. Most of your ribs have synovial joints. Most of your ribs are articulated, and they are meant to move. They are meant to open up and expand. They have muscles connecting them. The whole rib cage is like a concertina, and it is meant to expand and contract. But in modern humans, because we rarely breathe deeply, for most people, the chest gets rigid and stiff. And if you've ever had body work on the chest, your body worker might say, "Oh my God, you're like concrete." At least they used to say that to me. So it's very healthy for the chest, and it's very healthy for your natural regulation. So then you notice the effect is like we noticed it when we first started practicing. That one time we were in LA and we were on the 13th floor of a building in the hotel, and the elevators broke down, and we walked up 12 flights of stairs, chatting away.
We didn't even notice.
Without even noticing, we just walked up 12 flights of stairs because we'd practiced enough that our ribcage was simply expanding to meet the demand of oxygen that our body was making. And so we didn't even notice, we didn't become breathless. And that's really the point, is to restore that vitality, that natural health in the body.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's a very good way explaining that, how you going, if you stairs, it's like how you prepare yourself.
And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it has an analogy to everything else we do in Bikram yoga, that we stress all of the systems of the body. The immune system, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the circulatory system. We stress them in very sensible, well thought out ways to make them stronger. And when they're stronger, you're healthier. And so that's why, Bikram yoga isn't like a physical therapy, even though it has an element of physical therapy in it. It's much more impactful than that because it's literally getting to the root of all the systems in the body.
So you're saying that build the resistance. That's exactly what he says, that, it's crisis management. If you And that's why it's challenging. If you look at it, to do practice 90 minutes and doing all the poses, it's a really challenge. because it's a you feel hard, but we always say do as best as you can, because you understand your ability and you're building up the endurance power.
Right.
It needs to practice every day. That's why we also emphasize for students that do as best as you can, but do it every day. Consistency will help you
a lot.
So Joel, I don't know if you're able to, or if that's Angie, I don't know if you're able to come online, but if not, I can read at least. Yeah, you sent in 3 questions. Joel and Angie sent us 3 questions. So maybe I'll start one and see where this takes us. So so I'm not going to take them in the order they were written. I'll take them in a slightly different order. So in wind removing pose, I often feel like my right hip needs to pop before I can get into the proper alignment, the knee foot in a straight line instead of the knee out to the side and foot towards the midline of my body and close to my body. I try not to force my hip to pop, but I am so grateful when it does, often in the second set. Could you share your thoughts on whether this is harmful and what is the best way to approach this?
I think, Matt, you answered this. Is this popping things is always scares me when someone feels good in popping. It's just, I think that's not a very good idea of popping. I think what she meant maybe she doesn't find enough stretching, when she feels the stretching, when that pops out, like chiropractor adjusting that your spine, how it pops, you feel, oh, great. But if it is a natural, it is a natural. But if it is something you do it, you start feeling it, unless it pops, then you don't feel good. You've got to watch yourself a little bit in the other postures. That's why I'm just saying, Matt, you start answering, because this is something that I don't want people to do it and get hurt, harm themselves. That's the only thing. Answer this first, then I will jump in.
Michele, so do
you want to sharing your thoughts on it, Matt? What do you think on that one?
Well, I mean, I think I agree with Rajashree. I mean, there's a popping of a knuckles, like knuckles cracking, that kind of cracking. That's harmless. That's a very specific phenomena. But a popping of a joint suggests either that the joint was in the wrong alignment to begin with, and the popping is restoring its alignment. In which case, you really need to look at why is it in the wrong alignment in the first place, or worse, you're pulling it out of alignment, and so. All of the movements of our body that we do in our yoga, we're never, ever destabilizing a joint. I mean, we shouldn't ever be destabilizing a joint. We should never pull an arm out of its socket. We should never pull a leg out of the hip joint. There should never be a situation where, if there's a ball and socket, that we're causing the ball and the socket to separate or twist out of alignment, because that's harmful to a joint. And over time, with repetition, it's the kind of thing that can cause arthritis and eventually failure of that part of the body. So it's definitely not something you should be doing. The pulling the knee down to the shoulder is something that is it's a stretching, but stretching is a muscular activity. Stretching isn't a mechanically dominating your body by pulling it beyond its normal range of motion. So as you pull your knee down into your shoulder, the muscles of your hip should be active and engaged, supporting that joint as you're doing it, not giving up and just submitting to the force of your arms. So I think, that's something to definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, so I think speaking as someone who has a certain degree of too much flexibility, not the most extreme you could find, there is a tendency to, you hear, completely avoid the rib cage as flexible person. You get the hip very, very, very far out, too far out, and then this kind of thing can occur. That I don't know if that's the reason for you. Whereas there's actually a rotation of the hip outwards, down and back in again, which follows the natural movement of the hip, which is as far as you want to go. But then Rajashree said about this is, are you referring to not getting enough stretch? And something came up, we were just in Thailand at teacher training, something came up during one of the teachers, Jim Callett's class, which I found very interesting, that he was having people do that natural movement of the hip, enough out, not on the rib cage. But then he was telling people go slow. When there's that line in the dialogue, you've pulled down, freeze down, move, you can't even blink your eyes. And then you have the words, you have to pull down a little extra hard. And he was taking it very slow and saying these words, allow the resistance to go, allow it to go. There's a resistance and you just keep pulling, you're getting that stretch by getting rid of the resistance. It's quite effective, but you don't have to. I really liked that principle. It made a lot of sense to me why there's the extra pull at the end as well. So not too far out as a flexible person, not so far that you're pulling something out of its proper housing. And then think of that as like the extra stretch would come, it's going to touch the shoulder by the resistance gradually being mined, for want of a better word.
Mm-hmm. This posture actually helps to get that hip flexibility. You gain it. So it's really need to be mindful. It's that when you're building up this resistance, you are supposed to build up this resistance. So when you are keep practicing and you are keep opening this, you gain further flexibility, but keeping the joint lubricated and healthy, but not overdo it. So this pulling it's something that all of us, even you think you are feeling good on hips, but a lot of time, I'm oversaying it. Remember, knee is there also. Careful with the knee, how you are pulling the knee down, how much. So it's just to be mindful of it. A lot of time we don't. It's a simple postures. We say, oh, nothing might happen on the knee, but later on when you stretch the leg down, then you say, oh, my hips are okay, but maybe now I'm feeling on my knee right now. These are the things I will just say mindful when you're feeling this cracking sound, because cracking and the joint shouldn't happen in this posture. You are engaging the muscles to pull it, which is Matt said it very nicely that, so it's just mindful. I don't know. You are not here, no? Who asked the question, she's not here. She's here in the
I don't
chat
think
room
so.
right
I
now.
think Joel's in the background, but she had to go and teach a ballet class. She's a long-term member with us during COVID. She is a Bikram teacher.
Hey.
Oh, actually,
hey, I'm just getting ready, so I need to be not on camera, but I am definitely here.
Okay, wonderful.
And what you're saying is, it sounds like I need to go slower for one, but it's just a sensation of kind of like being a little stuck. So maybe I am going too far out before I come in too, and I can just give it a.
Joel, if I stop you, you are a dancer, right?
Yes.
Yes, so I will tell you that it's a way of dancing that always I met many dancers in our class, and just watch yourself on your hips, even the postures, because it's coming from the standing to the lie down, and that's why you start feeling this. So few of the standing series poses, watch your hip joint, and that's going to be balancing, stick bow, pulling, and standing head to knee. Just watch how you do it.
Okay.
And you will get much more strength. Yeah, you will get much more strength doing triangle. You will build. Then you are coming on the floor. It's a continuation of your practice in the standing series, going down on the floor on mat. I believe you do perform bow pulling posture amazing. I believe all your standing posture may be amazing. So, we if I am not a dancer, but I know those lot of dancers, is this hip issues comes up later on because of certain way of dancing. You learn how to do, and especially jazz and the ballet, certain way you stand and certain way. So this popping is just, if it is bothering you, or is it something that unless it pops, you don't feel good? Which is it?
It's rarely painful, thank goodness. It just feels like I'm stuck. And then once it pops, it's like, oh, okay, well now I can, okay, now I'm not stuck anymore, which is why I think that maybe I'm going too far too fast. But I like what you're saying about the standing postures, because balancing stick, I do struggle to stay in parallel instead of turn out. That's definitely one I have to really work at. So maybe I do need to beginning.
Yeah, I just want to add something to this, and Rajashree, maybe you can comment on it too with it, because I think Angie, right? I mean, think about it. You've been a dancer your whole life, so your body's patterns fall right into, you know, the structure of how you built yourself as a dancer, right? So, you know, yoga is asking you to rewire alignment, really, right? Too. So the standing series, I mean, I find this for myself in my last few years. If I do standing head to knee, standing bow, and balancing stick the right way, I actually can feel, you know, strength in my hips. Someone said that to me 5-6 years ago. I wouldn't have understood that, right? The strength in that alignment. So I'm kind of wondering, and again, this is just adding to what you're suggesting in wind removing, if your body isn't sort of falling back into, you know, its dance pattern, right? You feel stuck because probably you don't have that range of motion, that sort of, you know, the healthier way, dare I say, right? You know, and so your body wants to move back into its, you know, older routine, right? So I think that's a message to stop, right? And go a millimeter at a time, 100% the right way, right? So it's an interesting insight into your own practice, right? Your own body.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your help with this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, Angie, I would say basically when you get to the point where you feel stuck, that's where you need to be. You just need to be there, holding, breathing.
Okay.
Because it's there that your muscles will reprogram. That popping is essentially you getting impatient and going onto the inside lane and bypassing the traffic jam.
Yeah. I do it, right? We all.
Right. Great advice. Thank you so much, guys.
Juan, do you have anything to add?
Is he there?
He's hiding in the background. Yeah.
Because I know you have a lot of,
popping things is like something I will add on more, because I'm a used to be very big popping person. Like I had from childhood, because I did so many flexible postures, because my strength was my flexibility. Each one has all these postures categories. Because coming from the yoga sports background, where I was always my teacher used to make me call bending, breaking the spine. That was a way, because they used to prepare ourselves in the warming up.
Wow.
That used to hold the hands under the chin and go through each vertebra at a time, doing the backward bending arch, And this was, if we didn't do it, we never felt good to start yoga class, practice with, because we trained to be for a performance. It was not like a way done. We used to do, maintaining for the therapy purpose, and that was all asanas. But anything with the yoga bayam, where is the more flexibility beyond the normal range of motion, or strength posture beyond the normal every day, what we do practice, normals we call shastasana, which is good for health. Whatever we extra do it, they used to break it from childhood, from 4 years old. And I tell you something now, I feel is dancing, like you prepare your body certain way, you feel good about it. This Bikram yoga series actually find balance between those, because we find when I was child, I was amazed to see how good I can do, and my spine flexibility. If my teacher doesn't do it, I don't find myself. But Bikram yoga practice gives you the tool and the power to find yourself within yourself, to work on it. It doesn't need someone to come and touch it and break it doing it. So when I was having that transition coming from that yoga sports background to my regular Bikram class was tough for me. Was really tough because I was one way was, expert, and that was in flexibility. I was never developed certain other way the muscles group that needed to be work on muscles to stretch itself, not bending the joints, not breaking those joints, and to be ready for yourself. So I feel like it's all of us, we go through this transition and learn. So now I'm always be careful when this popping sound comes, because my movement even creates pop sometimes in my joint because the way I was trained before. But it doesn't help because it's very loose. I need to learn to rebuild and strengthen the muscles, because that's where I failed to do it, because because we built certain way, because that was my expertise. So I always say that because I go through a lot of back injuries even right now myself, but I have to lose those areas that I need to constantly work with spinal strengthening series to create my vertebrae align. And this Bikram yoga and 26 and 2 actually does that.
Miraculous.
It's not better than that. It never goes more than that. What body needs.
Yeah.
Okay. Please go on.
There's
Wendy put something in the chat.
Yeah. I have a question, but I'm afraid it's too loud around.
No, we can hear you okay. There's no background. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have a question that my arms tend to get very heavier and heavier, and then tense when it gets to triangle. And typically, like the second set of triangle pose, I almost want to, and sometimes I do, I put my arms down and then just try to rest it. So I think, I'm thinking it is because I'm constantly thinking because it doesn't happen every class, but some classes it does happen. So I'm thinking there could be two reasons. One is that I may not be stretching enough, in these standing poses. The second reason I'm thinking it could also causing this is that I'm too tense in this area. I should relax it a little bit more. So I guess I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Yeah.
Sarah, you want to?
Oh, I'm going to ask Rajashree first, actually, I think.
Well, the heaviness can come for two reasons. One is heaviness is maybe your arms getting tired, you are feeling, and you are trying to use your arms against your, not against your will, but it's against your ability to hold stretch the arms, your balance or strengthening your joints, your muscles is getting tired in that position. That's why you can feel the heaviness. Or you can feel the heaviness because of, that's your question, right? Why do I feel the heaviness? It's kind of like beyond your flexibility, you are trying to stretch. I don't know your other part of the body's position yet. I only know because a lot of time, if we are not placing ourselves in the right position and we are trying to use the arms and trying to imaginary the way triangle is supposed to look, then we work with our arms more than our other part of the body. This is, I haven't seen your posture. I always have to visualize, but I'm trying to visualize myself, how it feels. Maybe it's the end of the standing series, you're getting tired. Or it is something you are not using properly, or you are not setting yourself up to in that position from the beginning when that position comes to stretch now, because the arm should be very easily stretched. You won't feel it. So it could be two reasons. You have to think about it. What is the reason? Because you should feel the same thing in the awkward pose, because awkward is so much about the arms.
Yes,
Also keeping
actually,
holding, stretching forward.
Yes, I do feel it. Like every time when we do like this, like stretching our arms, like I just feel like my arms is like getting tiring and tiring. And when
So
you get to triangle, I just feel like I want to rest my arms.
Wendy, when you talked just now, you did this, yes? This? So
Here.
if you try to move your arm, look at me, like this.
It'd be electric.
Yeah.
This is very unpleasant. Everything gets tired. So you're lifting up from the top of the shoulder. I'm going to move from the scapula.
Yeah.
So this is why always it's on the arms over the head sideways. It teaches you to get that whole scapula to move. Now, when you do that, you have a couple of advantages. This part is not getting tired. You've got all that power to propel you, but also you're also stretching, to go back to what Rajashree said, the spine at the same time. Everything is sort of in the upper body's in the right place. Then you've got the legs, of course. But the very fact that you keep doing this is where the tiredness comes. Absolutely. You're trying to lift up from there. Everything gets very heavy.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like really you're not using all of the muscles that are available. So, if you hold your arm over your head like this, Ben, it gets tired really quickly. It gets really tired really quickly if you just try it as an experiment. Your shoulder, your neck will tense, and this is hard. But this is much easier. And so the more you can extend the arm all the way from deep in the shoulder scapular region, as Sarah was saying, the lighter your arm should feel, the more calmness, as you gain balance in all the muscles, the effort will seem less and less and less over time, that you can sustain it more and more calmly over time. But it is an entire phenomena of the arm shoulder socket thing. Again, a bit like we were talking about the hip joint earlier with wind removing, is that your upper arm goes into the shoulder as a ball and socket, and that should be firm. So when that's firm and your elbow is locked, your entire scapular, upper arm, lower arm, hand, fingers, fingertips, everything's one thing. And that one thing has only one goal, which is to stretch and be strong. Whereas if you only have bits of it working, then essentially bits of it are working really hard and bits of it are not working at all. And so the bits that work really hard get tired pretty quickly.
And you might find it in life as well. If you're living it's not just in the room. You might find when you're lifting things, putting things in cupboards and stuff, if you're lifting up from there, you're going to get the same effect as if you're lifting from the scapula. You've got all the power you can do forever.
Yeah, and even vice versa. I mean, a lot of what you're doing could be correct, and those muscles have never been used before.
Yeah, it's also true.
Right, and you're strength. So that's
I think I just need the awareness, because I think after Sarah's workshop, some classes does get better, and some classes I forget, and then I just get, feel the tense like here. And even after the class, I feel the tense. So I think I just need to put more awareness on, really doing this, these postures properly, using the right way.
And pay attention to the elbows. You make sure the elbow's locked, because once the elbow locks, then the arm tends to come into alignment and it starts to work as a single phenomena.
Yeah, one thing I want to add too is you see a lot in triangle posture where by the time we get there, we have a little bit of anxiety, maybe a little bit tired too. And you can see it in the students when their arms go out. You can see that they're heavy because they aren't locked out or, straight. They're not stretching both sides. People's fingers are kind of limp, and that gives indication that the muscles aren't engaged. So, you have to, the energy has to go out those fingertips and come from, right, the shoulder blade scapula, right? Because the tighter you are, the lighter you are, right? We say that in class. So
I think the elbows I will pay attention to next time. I think I tend to, put a lot of emphasis on the shoulder blades. Like the elbows, I actually, I never really think of it, but I think I will pay more attention forward.
And as Michelle said, the tips of the fingers. So, it's coming from your shoulder through your arm and then out the tips of your fingers.
Yeah.
And you can get all of that in one line. You'll feel strong.
Mm-hmm. If you keep stretching, you will see you're not feeling the heavy on your joints. Mm-hmm. You keep stretching, you are feeling that power, just going up, and then it's the whole thing, the heaviness will go out from the fingertips. It's not going to go down to your shoulder because you will be able to use the scapula and the back muscles that time. Mm. It's all about in that series is keeping your mind in the body. Mm. That's the toughest part. That's the awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I will keep sharpening and keep the concentration, keep practicing the concentration and awareness.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome, Wendy.
Jeff, did you have a question? You're muted right now.
That might be a good thing. In the bow pose, I'm curious, since it's part of the spine strengthening series, I've not noticed a whole lot of strength, I would say, coming from the spine. I think most of my height of the legs and my chest is coming from my kicking up and back with the legs, and that seems to be the primary power for lifting the body up in that bow pose. But I imagine because it's part of that series, I should start paying attention to engaging the back muscles or not.
I'm going to say I'm very suspicious of that statement.
I mean, I didn't pay so much attention to your question.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you start, Sarah or Matt?
So I never liked that thing because you never heard, you just learned the dialogue. You've never got those words, right? Engage the back muscles. So this
they're not there. They're not there. I'm just going by the term of the spine strengthening series.
Don't do it. It's like the actions that you take will result in the necessary use of the spine. The actions are given. So I see what you're getting at, but I just as soon as you think I'm going to make an action of engaging the back muscles, rather than taking the actions which will eventuate in the spine benefiting, you've changed how you're approaching it.
No, I didn't try that yet. I just noticed
No. It's just that it's nothing wrong. We do think of these things, but it's just that it would be an odd way. Personally, it would be a very odd way for me to start if I would then tighten everything up. Try to use the back muscles.
Right.
So when you're lying down, Jeff, in say Cobra, for instance, when the teacher says look up or chest up, what happens to your spine?
It contracts.
Yeah. So it's buried in there in that practice that yes, this is a spine strengthening, and you will start to use your spine. But to begin with, especially for stiff men, I mean, it'll be a bit, generalizing. It starts off as a phenomena that's more about the thighs and the legs than anything else, and starting to get something to happen in a stiff spine. But the process, just that simple process of looking up and kicking up, is already working your spine as much as your legs are trying to help with that process to help it start to happen. So yes, it is absolutely a spine strengthening posture. And over time, as your practice progresses, you will start to feel more activity in your spine, not just in that, but in Cobra, in Locust, in Full Locust, in all, even in standing back bending. I mean, all the back bends, just like we were talking about the hip earlier, none of these are about disengaging the muscles and trying to maximize flexibility. They're all muscular activities of stretching the spine. But it takes us time to get connected to those muscles. But yeah, the instructions are buried in the dialogue. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the dialogue. It has these seemingly almost throwaway simple comments buried in there, like look up. But that actually has an impact in your nervous system, and it causes the right kinds of things to happen when you do it.
Yeah, we all have to look up the same way, pretty much.
Yes, look
Well,
up.
it's very interesting because, I different kind of body, but I never looked up. I never looked up. I was always looking in the mirror. I had to see what my alignment was. I had to see where my feet were. And then I got yelled at in teacher training, look up, backward bending. I did it. I could do the posture. It's like, so that was the same thing. It was like, so you have to do those things the best of your ability, and then you see the result come. And that's for all of us.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Roger, welcome.
Roger.
Hi, everyone. I had a question. I was actually this question is it was kind of intense for me because it actually had. So my question is it inherently dangerous to teach someone how to breathe, to give like instructions about how to breathe? Because I had a situation, this was like maybe it was during COVID, and I had one of my students, I was teaching tennis, his dad, he was asking me for like, he was saying that he was trying to ask me for advice on how to keep up, like running up, doing some long distance running. And at the time I kind of gave him some advice about exhaling and et cetera, et cetera. And then, long story short, a couple months later, he was playing tennis, and then actually with one of my friends, and he ended up going into cardiac arrest. And he had to, it ended up being that he had a triple vessel disease in his heart. So it was because he already had some like, decreased blood flow. So I was wondering if, teaching someone how to breathe more efficiently can cause someone to maybe in the short term, maybe make them feel better, but then in the long term might make them push themselves harder to an area where their body can't, isn't adapted, can't adapt as quickly to some sort of, endurance or.
I mean, Roger, I think the short answer is no. The longer answer obviously is it depends. But basic breathing is something we will do, and our nervous systems will protect us against doing things that are harmful. And
yeah, because sometimes I'm thinking like, if for younger like for younger people, I can teach. I don't know if like teaching them breathing should be more of like a self-discovery process. They can discover for themselves. But then a lot of times in like older populations, they're like, you kind of want to push them a little bit more, be like, hey, there's an efficient way to do what you've been doing for the last 30, 40 years. But you don't know what their pre-existing conditions might be. So that's why I was wondering if is it inherently dangerous to teach someone how to breathe? Like, because I remember in my like many years, I've never really during the dialogue, none of the teachers have explicitly said, oh, this is the way to breathe. It's always been like I've always been trying to connect the dots in my own head. So I think it's actually kind of beneficial. It's a little slower, in that self-discovery type of mentality. So yeah, I was wondering if because a lot of times I would like to give like my brother or some advice on, hey, maybe this might improve your breathing, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm kind of inclined, after the incident I had with my student's dad, I'm inclined to just not say anything about it and let them figure it out themselves,
So normal breathing for a human is closing the mouth and breathing naturally and out through the nose, and that will be, you know this already. I want to refer it to Rajashree because in terms of breathing techniques like pranayama, breath control, there are caveats about how to, not doing on the exhale or the inhale, and more complicated than what we do.
I want to find out, Roger, two things. You'd say as much as you feel comfortable. What did you teach?
Oh, what I taught? Yeah. So I basically told him to. So he was saying that whenever he ran up a hill, right, he would have this this burning in his chest. I didn't ask him point exactly where, but that's beside the point. But my advice to him was to concentrate more on the exhalation than the inhalation, right? That's the only thing I said to him. I was like,
I don't think,
I was saying that, like, for example, like when I would run like marathon, I would be like, okay, I would every step I would take 3 exhalation steps for every 2 inhalation steps. So, it would be a net exhalation.
So you feel that was too much for the person, and how old was he?
You see, that's the thing, right? Because I don't know, because he lost consciousness during his cardiac arrest. So I know that if I probably should go ask him. He walks around my house, but he lost consciousness. So I don't think he would remember, like, I don't think he would remember how he was actually breathing. I should clarify more with with exactly what.
I said, really, you didn't harm him. You really did not the cause of this. It's something you feel because of, maybe it is not only in your, capacity to control. It was going to happen to him, anyway, because a lot of we find students comes into the class later on, they have certain condition. It's a health condition. It's not, you are only a yoga teacher. What you learn, you are helping the person to have a better life. But if in life, in 2 days later or 2 years later, if someone has cause of something, disorder, or go through certain kind of arrest, like I'm talking about like a cardiac arrest, it's not cause of 2 years ago how you taught the breathing, because you really don't know how he did even apply. He could have applied, like taking the pills during the time of the cardiac arrest. Usually they said who has a heart problem, but majority of the people forgets to take that or caregiver forget to give that medication, So you may taught the right thing and it was fine for him, but that moment he didn't know how to use it. So it can happen like that. You holding this yourself. If you are a Bikram teacher, you learn only deep breathing and you know how to do the deep, but I will also tell you that deeper has to be, inhale has to be deeper. Exhale has to be longer, but inhale has to be deeper. That's why we started this time, our conversation is our stomach should be engaged or not. Yes, our stomach should be engaged. A lot of time, if stomach has flatulence or gas even, or some kind of a cramping, we start feeling that when we start bringing. There's a lot of time, the heart issues, that's the cause, underlying cause happening down there. There is a problem, but there is other health issues are involved. So I'm just only telling you this, that my personal experience, like breathing, what you are holding, that grudges, that maybe that happened because of I taught something, it's not the cause, because you really didn't even, that moment, anything can happen. And his health, you never ask even it, you had this condition or not. You didn't do anything else. So don't hold it. Don't carry it. Teach what you learn. You should feel good about that. You try to at least help.
I never ran marathons, Roger, but I did the same breathing the technique you described when I ran. I sort of found it, and then I read about it. I only found it to be soothing and give me more calmness and energy. Nothing, so.
But also, Roger, you know this from your medical training. The breath is an interesting system of the body because it's both autonomic and voluntary. And so it's extremely hard to voluntarily override the autonomic instincts of the nervous system. You try holding your breath, and at some point you're going to want to breathe because the autonomic breathing system's fighting with your voluntary demand that you not breathe. So it's very hard to teach somebody to do something that would be harmful to their body, because their body will fight like crazy to reassert its healthy
Yes,
pattern.
that's very true.
You know, I mean, extreme yogis who've spent, you know, decades and decades practicing doing some very out there kind of techniques
Esoteric things.
might be in a place where they were vulnerable to certain things, but that would require such a force of will to override their nervous system to make it happen. But, you know, casually giving somebody some tips about how to breathe running up hills is honestly, don't be concerned, Roger. You know, I mean,
Roger, think about it from the opposite perspective. This gentleman had 3-vessel coronary artery disease, which was, you know, bound to catch up with him at some point. And the fact that you created a healthier breathing pattern for him may have actually been quite helpful in his recovery from such a dramatic event. So look at it instead of half full, you know, half empty. You know, look at it as, you know, you gave him a glass and you filled it up with water and he was able to live.
That's a very good point. That's a really good point.
I think it's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, it was on a tennis court. It wasn't like in the mountains, you know, into like a 10-mile run. So, you know, it's just unfortunate that, yeah, you know, he had a, you know, a big operation, but yeah. I think
You know,
if he did yoga, he can avoid that.
you know, anytime we talk about the breath, right, too, it you know, you're sneaking in awareness, Roger. So hopefully, you know, anytime all of us talk about breathing to somebody, hopefully they start to become aware, like, wow, you know, because as Matt was saying, right, like our broad body, thank goodness, you know, breathes on its own. So we are not aware of it, you know. So to become aware of it, hopefully that'll be part of his recovery. You know, he's got a new chance, like, to reset, right?
Yeah.
So
breathing is like an advanced posture for, I mean, it allows, you know, because, you know, there's like
common, you know, like he's thinking about only, my internet is keep going down, guys. That's why half of the time I can hear it. So I think it's a very common thing, you know, what you said it, because we hear a lot of time students comes and then they go through that treatment and then they come back again to the yoga. You know, yoga is a complementary medicine. Support the, you know, it's a healing modality. It supports, it's not curative process there. So if there is a problem, there is a cure, you know, and that's, they go try to get the medical help and then they come back for the healing modality. So it's kind of like, it has to go together. So don't hold anything, because you really maybe saved him. Yeah. And which is, you know, the voluntary muscles, autonomous nervous system. It's really, if he's breathing, it's that time it's not going to work and thinking how Roger taught me breathing.
Yeah. You know, I remember years ago, remember Larry King Live? Do any of you remember Larry King Live on CNN? I mean, that guy he brought on Andrew Weil. Remember Andrew Weil? I think he was, you know, the head of the Health Council. Do you guys remember Dr. Andrew Weil?
Very well.
Yeah. Great. I used to read all of his newsletters. Anyway, he was kind of at the tip of his career, and it was sort of when alternative medicine was, this is even before yoga became the craze in the Western world. But he was becoming, you know, people were turning heads and sort of looking at, you know, how other ways of taking care of your health, you know, besides, you know, Western medicine. So one of the things at the very end of the show, Larry King Live said, God, if there's one thing that you could tell the general audience to do to improve their health, what would be just that one thing? And Dr. Andrew, this is how we ended the show. Dr. Andrew Weil said, if everybody could just learn how to breathe. Right? So, I mean, you know, it just is, I mean, it's so interesting, this Q&A session. We started, Roger, you weren't here, but we probably spent a good 15, 20 minutes or so talking about breathing. And here we are talking about breathing, you know, so I think what you did was wonderful. And I think everybody's got, if we could learn how to breathe, right? You know,
I actually, when I start, I hate to say this, the breathing is the hardest thing for me, and I feel like if I can just get through the breathing, it's all downhill from here. So it is hard to breathe, even after 20 years of doing Bikram. It's like it's like it's like, oh my God, I just got to get through that first 10 minutes, and then I got it.
Yeah, but
That's
you know, one thing I
that's
did, I knew, you know, breathing. I mean, of course, the biggest muscle, I mean, one of the most unique muscles involved in breathing is the diaphragm. So
Exactly.
it actually, that muscle is not just the breathing, it's actually any sort of backward, because it's attached to the back of the sternum or back of the chest wall. I'm not sure exactly where, but it's also attached to the back of the near the cruce to the vertebrae. So any
It's
sort of
attached to the
forward or
spine.
backward bend is started with the diaphragm. So I mean I learned that in medical school, but I never really thought about it when I was doing the yoga. So
It's all connected. And so, on that vein, with the breathing, it's funny. We actually do have another question about breathing.
Oh my
I
goodness.
know. So, breathing, obviously, today's session is breathing predominantly. So, we have a question again from Angie, which I think is a really cool question. Why do some teachers do the second set of blowing in firm pose at the end so fast? When it's so fast, how is it possible to really snap the abdominal muscles in and out? And what is the best way to approach a really fast set?
oh
No, it's not a question for you, Roger.
Rajashree, did you hear that? Because your second set is fast. Maybe is it frozen there? No, she's.
Second. Well, I always, why second set is a little faster. The second set is faster. The first set is shorter because we prepare the muscles. We prepare the abdominal muscles. First set when he's going back and forth, and he's prepared and it's ready. The second set is always, I try to teach a little faster, but I also tell the people who can't keep up with the faster movement, do as whatever the space you can. So that you vibrate that little bit more faster, getting your oblique and rectus much stronger that way. So at the end of the whole series, when it comes, there is no chances to get cramp, but you can still do it, and vibrate faster to exhale and make it stronger, internal oblique and also the external, and the same time internal organs. So it's a constrict a little bit more faster and prepare. So you see your lower back and you see your abdomen. That's the the main reason I do at the end. But my whole teaching is also, sometimes if you can't do it, just do as best as you can. So you can continue doing the first, but I try to make them do it a little bit harder, faster. That's my theory. This is certain things I, first set, second set, I always try to do. Even my breathing, the first set, I take so much time because I'm feeling the pranayama breathing. I mean, a lot of people complain to me that I said complain because, oh, your first set was killing. It's not killing. It's just taking so much time. I want students to allow their diaphragm. I allow, this is it's really why they feel that, because there's a pressure on the nervous system and, the movement, because it's just going through the 6 count slowly. The second set, you flow faster. It's not that I am making count really longer, but you flow faster. Your muscles are prepared. Your diaphragm is already enough ready to expand. Your intercostal vertebrae are ready. So it's really you feel it.
Rajashree, do you have any advice for people doing the second set of blowing in firm pose who struggle to have their abdominal muscles relaxed, because when it goes so fast, if your muscles are very slow to relax in the abdomen, then they don't relax, so you don't get an inhale and then you run out of breath. And we see that quite a lot in the room.
Well, my answer would be for them that do the best as you can. Again, I will say, it's a purpose to be relaxed, but we also have, if you notice that a lot of time, you challenge with yourself that you exhale out in the Uddiyana, you bringing the stomach in and then you do the Noli, I mean, Kapalbhati is not Noli, but that's another level of going from beginner's level to process yourself, to control your abdominal muscle and keeping this movement faster. So it's not everybody's ready. It's not everybody's ready. So the people who is not ready, they should just do the same like the first set until they feel that they have total understanding of when they go in and when they go out, that they can relax completely. So as a teacher for us, we identify those students and tell them your abdomen is not relaxing when you're exhaling, because you have to go vibrate like that. To me, as long as they don't feel cramping, it's okay. If they start feeling the cramp and they are not able to exhale properly, then they continue doing the first set, like slowly. But it's a how do you find the space is different with the people? So you find from the beginning it comes 90 minutes, and you find the group is very beginners. So leave it the way it is, slow space, let them move with 90 minutes. Or you can try that and see how, if you can help them to progress more. Is it too hard, what I said?
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, to imagine. But I will say best as you can for the people. But movement is faster, cannot catch up. Just do it the way you did it the prior one, the first set.
I think it's like everything else, that the more you do it, the more you practice, the better it'll get eventually. Just a matter of practice.
I mean, me personally, in my personal practice, there are times when I cannot get the rhythm of the second set. I can't, my abdomen won't relax fast enough to be able to do the very fast breathing. And so sometimes I just have to start the second set at the speed of the first set, like an old steam train coming out of the station, speeding up.
Gradually speed up.
And I ride the wave of that. And that helps me with my engagement of my abdominal area. And sometimes I lose it and I just let the train come off the tracks and I have to slow down again. But it's something I personally struggle with in the practice. Some days it comes easy and other days it seems elusive.
What kind of electrolytes do you use in your water?
All kinds of things. Yeah. That's an open-ended conversation.
Yeah. Kapha body breathing is, it's a unique, right? So, you can't expect it to be acquired so fast, right? It takes time. It takes total focus too. But I like what you said too, Rajashree, and it's a reminder to me, right? By the time we get there, and to challenge it a little bit because we're warmed up, right? We won't cramp. Yeah.
It's just the moving, another level. But
if
we could take that challenge, but don't put stress on yourself. Do the pose. This is that, again, mindfulness, awareness, or where I am at and how far I can reach, and how much intensity I can put on this time. So every day is not the same. So
a lot of your emphasis this week, Rajashree, if I can just add this in, has been wonderful having you, and Rajashree's been teaching a lot and did the 2 lectures, has been on making sure that there's ease in the breath. If we're talking breath, that's been a big focus the last 5 days, right? Sukham, ease, right? So,
exactly.
In
because it's like effortless breathing in the postures when you are in the pose. So it's just finding that effortless breath. I want everybody. That's the basic theory of asanas, the postures, the sthiram sukham asanas. the stillness has to be there, because if you are pushing, you're not becoming that position, the particular where you are maximum in that posture and the position, and that at ease and the stillness. Because I see a lot of students idealize certain pose, certain way, and they are constant try to push themselves, and then half of us, they are exhausted themselves. Understanding myself today slowly built up the momentum, which is actually, as Matt said, is very nicely with the train ride things, how we built up. And, you just have to make sure that if your breathing is not easy, at ease, and breathing is not, if it is always effort, then it's not going to have the same effect, for the next pose. The next pose is going to slowly go down. So we just need to be focused on that at ease part. So it's just not pushing it beyond you need it, push enough that you can little bit have a growth in the pose. If you are not a first timer who is first time starting the class. So that's why when you said it, remember, Michele, you are in the regular stretch period, and you saw that one, how I slowly in the standing series, how built up the momentum, one beginning to the next one. Yeah.
I was joking with Rajashree because every class she has one posture she holds 5 minutes. Right. First it was standing head to knee. Oh my goodness gracious. Then the next night it was standing bow. And you never know which one is coming, but then the next one was balancing stick. Oh, well, right. But yes. And one of the sentences you used along this too, Rajashree, is you had explained that the last few seconds in particular of each posture builds the endurance. And it's not endurance like running, it's endurance with the ease of breathing.
At ease of breathing, exactly.
Yeah, the last few seconds, which is different, which is, if we go back to, what we were talking about in the beginning, Matt, right, with creating resistance, right? This is resistance training. Right there is a sweet spot, right? The last few seconds, the endurance, right? The ability to hold, but with ease of breathing, right?
But usually people struggle there.
Right.
That struggle transfer into the ease. That's what I was trying to remind everybody. And that's the place where you actually start feeling healing. That's why you start feeling in the class, like it's how I feel comfortable even in this position. It's a very much mindful experience in the place, because you are all going through that body awareness. Yoga is all about body awareness. And then there is a breathing part comes in called breath awareness to a mind awareness. Then mind, body, and the breath awareness all together comes. Then it's really compact on your whole system, because it's the awareness if cutting every time if you're not properly focusing on breath, the body and mind connection is going away. So we just have to create that in the whole momentum, and stay in there. Then you build up your concentration and the build of your endurance. And that endurance, a lot goes on the mind, because you actually work on your mind a lot during that time. At the same time, you work on your nervous system a lot, which relaxes the breath, because other things, stays away. And then physical struggle, what we do, I won't say struggle, physical movement, we start enjoying and understand our body, where it is in the part that we need to build or create less strength. Because a lot of time, if today's our whole conversation, we are doing it, if I notice that, and I'll be finding the more people are not, like using the scapula to stretching the arms, where scapula and engaging the whole spine, which is Sarah explained very nicely. People try to lift their shoulder up to hold their arms, and they start having the neck problem. Then come out and they said arms are tired. They are not working with the biceps, triceps. We just say stretch and squeeze it. It's like that, those kind of stuff. So this body awareness is a very important in the yoga. Then you start finding the relaxation for that 20 seconds or 30 seconds of that whole combination. Then when you lie down and you release it, you find the relaxation. Purpose of yoga is finding relaxation, not to put the stress on yourself, because you're coming from that, to release it. So the whole mindset has to change, people. That, why am I doing? But you're getting tremendous relaxation and rejuvenation from after that 26 and 90 minutes.
Nicely put.
My internet is down again.
No, we can hear you, Roger. There was a momentary glitch, but we got that.
I like that explanation.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Roger, are you okay now? You trying to help? Remember?
Yeah, that's yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. It was good.
Roger, I want to get your advice about breathing.
Do it often.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you least expect it, you'll learn the most, I guess. Yeah.
Good.
Actually, can I ask one more question? It just
Of
came
course.
to my mind. And it's not ideal, I know, but sometimes when I'm not in town and I'm in Bend, Oregon right now, and they have hot yoga, Bikram yoga, but sometimes I can only get to a 60-minute class. So like I know it is like 90 day is not the same. Even takes me a while to even want to do it. But I feel so desperate for hot yoga that I still go. And I guess my question is your perspective and advice on I'm assuming it's okay to go if that's my only option. And two, when I do that, is there anything I can do to help my practice to be more higher quality or whole, so to speak?
Do 2 sets real quick.
Rajashree, is there anything you want to say on this?
I really don't know how to address this, because in the scientific class shows that last 30 minutes is the most beneficial for, Bikram yogas, the series. And that 30 minutes we don't give ourselves. And that's why this yoga is beautiful, because you have enough time to relax, enough time to work out, enough time to find yourself. When you do the 60 minutes, it's more as a neuromusculars. It doesn't go into internal so much. So for you, I'm glad, I appreciate that you love hot yoga and you want to continue practice. I never taught 60 minutes, so I don't know how and what posture they slow down, or maybe they make its posture, they do all and they make it faster. So, that's the part I don't know. So I can't really go and tell how can you be better in that 60 minutes class. But if you find yourself, is any struggles you are having in the class, some places, you should ask them what they suggest, because they are the one who made it 60 minutes. It is supposed to be 90 minutes. So I only tell you that data shows it recently, when the research shows that last 30 minutes, 60 minutes, you built up the whole neuromusculars, nervous systems, cardio, everything. And then last 30 minutes, when you are, we start doing the floor series, little bit before, 10 minutes before. So we started, and that 30 minutes is like a really healing modality. And that's need that savasana in between to do. And I don't believe in 60 minutes that savasana exists. It's somewhere they cut it. I don't know where. The asanas, if don't do the savasana, and especially lie down in the posture, in between, if we don't do the savasana, then we are not doing the asana. Again, it is more superficially, we're trying to do things for our body to be as a aerobic exercise, not non-aerobic, which is activate your parasympathetic nerve in the yoga, which is the vagus nerve, and so us all we talk about it. Yes.
I mean, I think, Elaine, depending, obviously every 60-minute class out there is slightly different in what they've chopped and how they've sort of mashed up the sequence. So I don't think there's one definitive answer, but I think you need to look at how do you feel at the end of the class, and the two most common, I think, classes of scenario that might occur in a 60-minute class is that you feel physically incomplete because you didn't warm up properly and you didn't have enough time to work your body through the physicality of the practice, or you feel energetically incomplete, like your nervous system's a little kind of, you don't feel properly complete, like something's still fizzing and a little out of balance energetically. And this is something that happens in other styles of yoga, where yoga teachers who lack experience put together random sequences of postures that cause disruptions of the nervous system that don't get properly addressed as part of the sequencing of the class. That's why the sequence of Bikram yoga is so very, very important, because physiologically, energetically, everything is working its way through some ups and downs to end in a good place. So I think depending on whether it's like an energetic disruption or a physical disruption, if it's a physical disruption, I think you probably find some ways to do some additional stretching before or after the class. That one's probably simpler. If it's energetic, I honestly don't know. I mean, for me personally, I've had experiences like that. We've taken 2 60-minute classes just to see what on earth was going on. And in both of those, I felt energetically very incomplete, and I basically had to kind of lie down and meditate for a little while just to get my nervous system back into its central core again, which obviously I don't need to do in Bikram, because it's all part of the whole 90-minute sequence. So you could try that. It depends on how you're feeling at the end of the class. I mean, what's your experience so far been?
Well, it's kind of interesting, because sometimes you're like, oh yeah, great, it's only 60 minutes. I'll be done in 60 minutes, And I think that's one reason they offer it, maybe because some people have to go back to work, doing lunch hours, what have you. But most of the time, now I think you have just verbalized how I feel, because I feel like I'm just cut short. Like it's not even like you're sprinting versus a marathon. That's not even a good comparison, but it does feel like you're just rushed through it, because you don't get the flooring, what is it, the dead man's pose. They cut that short. Some poses you do 1 and not 2. In some, in the spine series, sometimes they don't repeat, they link them, so you have 3 of them. They just do 1 2 3 1 2 3 versus twice. So you just feel like, so I guess my lessons is I'll try to find a 90-minute class or lobby for it when I'm not in San Jose, that is. And then and try to, maybe I'll take the advice and just not get stressed about it and go with the flow more. Just breathe and go with the flow.
What about just thinking about it like it's a Pilates class, and kind of just go in there with, this isn't yoga, this is Pilates, and I'm going to get something out of it, but not what I hope to get out of a Bikram class. Is that kind of a way to look at it? Would you guys think that's a good way to look at it?
Well, the problem, only thing I will say that 90 minutes class versus 60 minutes, what I see that a lot of time 90 minutes class is for Bikram beginner series, the people who first introducing to the beginners level. And the way the 60 minutes was taught that with the series, yes, we do that in our advanced series. So a lot of beginners people are not advanced and we're pushing them in. And it depends on them and the teacher, who is the teacher, how they are corresponding with each one's necessity and needs and demand in there. So for me, I can't criticize about it. You are right. They fit into the catering the people who always complain 90 minutes too long. I come from the work. It takes 3 hours for me. But I don't know how that class is run because I never did. So I am just telling you that because we do have those 333, our advanced series, but not everybody's ready to be in advanced position. You know, if people start with beginners. So if beginners put into that, a lot of time it's hard for them to catch up because, you know, if someone coming like a really never done any yoga and have a very less flexibility, not very good concentration. And for them just to move that faster, I don't want to sound bad, but I don't want to harm them, you know, injure them, to move them very fast position that, or skip them certain poses because I can't do it. But I never, again, I never taught that way, you know, in the classroom setup. So I don't know. So it might work fine for others, but the study shows where is the benefit. And we learn from childhood, asanas is complete when you do the savasana. And that's where the lie down series was developed that way.
Well, we are, believe it or not, out of time.
Yes.
So I wanted to thank everybody for coming, and Rajashree especially. Thank you for joining us, and obviously Michele and Juan in the background. Thank you for joining us from Thailand. We will post a recording of this on our YouTube channel, just the audio portion of this. And stay tuned for the next one. I mean, we do these quarterly. If this is the first time you've been on, thank you.
This is really helpful. Thanks for hosting it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.